there comes a moment when the noise dies down. Not because the world gets quieter, but because you do. You stop defending yourself. You stop correcting their twisted version of your truth. You stop showing up to arguments disguised as conversations. You stop explaining, and that silence, it's louder than any scream you ever gave them. You used to think silence was weakness, that to be quiet was to be walked over, that if you didn't speak up, you'd lose. So you tried. You poured your soul into words. You clarified, apologized, over-explained, just trying to be understood. But all it did was give them more ammunition, more power, more opportunities to twist the knife. They never wanted to understand you. They wanted to exhaust you. So you stopped, not in anger, not in revenge, but in clarity. That's the kind of silence they never expect. The kind that doesn't come with slammed doors or dramatic exits. It's quiet. It's sudden. It's real. One day you're there, offering your heart, explaining your intentions. The next day, you're gone. No goodbye, no closure, just a wide echoing silence they can't escape. Now, they feel it everywhere. In the absence of your name on their phone. In the stillness of rooms you once lit with your presence. In the conversations they start, only to realize you're no longer there to finish them. And here's the part that hurts them the most. You're not mad. You're not bitter. You're just done. Done repeating yourself. Done shrinking for people too small to understand you. Done giving energy to people who only drain it. Your silence is not passive. It's purposeful. It's powerful. It's punishment without cruelty. Distance without hate. Truth without words. Because when you finally realize your peace is louder than your pain, you stop performing. You stop proving. You stop justifying your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. They thought you'd come back. They thought silence was a tactic, temporary, emotional, impulsive. But this silence, it's your new language, and they don't speak it. Now, they're left with questions that never get answered, apologies that come too late, and realizations that hit far too hard. You didn't leave to be chased. You left because the noise wasn't worth your energy anymore, and in your stillness, you became unstoppable. It didn't start with silence. It started with trying. You gave them the benefit of the doubt, again and again. You thought maybe they didn't mean it like that. You excused the tone, ignored the sarcasm. You brushed off the little jabs that felt like knives wrapped in compliments. You told yourself it was just a rough patch, just a phase, just stress. You gave them your kindness like it was a gift they'd learn to appreciate. Eventually. But eventually never came. Because the more you explained yourself, the less they listened. The more you gave, the more they took. The more honest you were, the more they twisted your words and made you feel crazy for caring too much. They mistook your patience for passivity, your empathy for naivety. They thought they could keep pushing without consequence. They expected noise when you were hurt, fights, breakdowns, maybe even begging. That's what they were used to. That's what people usually did. But you were different. You were the kind of person who gave warnings with grace. And when that grace ran out, you didn't explode. You disappeared. They thought they were in control, playing their little games, calculating responses, measuring how far they could go. But they weren't ready for what happened when you finally stopped playing. Because silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of something more terrifying. Indifference. And indifference, that's the death of power. They had influence over you as long as you cared. As long as you argued, cried, tried to explain, they had a hold on you. But the moment you went quiet, that's the moment you took everything back. No more checking their messages. No more waiting for them to understand. No more rehearsing what to say next. No more playing the part of the person who's easy to love just to be tolerated. And they noticed. Not immediately, of course. At first, they were relieved. Finally, no drama, they thought. She stopped complaining. Maybe things are better now. But then the silence stayed. And that scared them, because silence holds a mirror. It doesn't distract, it reflects. Without your words, they had to sit with their own. Without your explanations, they had to face the truth on their own. And suddenly, they began to feel everything they made you feel. Confused, anxious, unsettled. They checked their phone more often, wondering if they missed something. They replayed old messages, trying to find the exact moment you slipped away. They asked mutual friends how you were doing, hoping for a breadcrumb, a sign, anything. But nothing came. You were no longer part of their cycle. You didn't need revenge. You became the absence they didn't expect to feel so deeply. And now, they sit in the silence, replaying moments they didn't care about before. The times you sat quietly next to them. The soft, subtle ways you loved them. The way you checked in when no one else did. The way your energy used to hold everything together while they took it all for granted. It's funny how silence works. It doesn't knock on the door. It seeps in through the cracks. It haunts them in places they thought were safe from consequence. You see, they assumed silence meant defeat. But your silence wasn't surrender. It was a strategy. While they spun, in circles trying to figure out what went wrong, you were healing, quietly. You were sleeping again, eating again, smiling at strangers, taking walks alone. You were building, not a comeback, but a new chapter. You weren't trying to be seen anymore. You were becoming someone so rooted in self-respect that even love wouldn't tempt you back to disrespect. And the truth is, they don't miss you entirely. They miss how easy it was to access you. They miss the version of you that tolerated just enough to keep them comfortable. But that version, she's gone. He's gone. They're gone. You outgrew the noise. You outgrew the chaos. You outgrew the need to be heard by people committed to staying deaf. And now, you don't explain anymore. Not because you're hiding anything, but because you realized if someone can't hear you when you whisper your truth, they don't deserve to hear you scream it. Silence is a boundary. It says, I don't owe you my words. I don't owe you my peace. I don't owe you anything. And when they come back, and yes, they often do, it won't be because they've changed. It'll be because they can't stand not having access to what they once controlled. But by then, you'll be far away. Not physically, perhaps, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You won't be the same person they remember. You'll be stronger, clearer, quieter, but louder than ever, because silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening, and it no longer includes them. Silence isn't empty. It's layered, deliberate, and devastating in its precision. It's a signal that something deeper has shifted, not just in how you deal with others, but in how you value yourself. This is where the transformation begins. When you go silent, you don't just stop speaking, you start listening to yourself, to your instincts, to all the red flags you used to paint white. You begin hearing the truth that your noise once drowned out. And in that stillness, clarity arrives, not with a bang, but like a slow sunrise after a long sleepless night. You realize the problem was never your tone, or your timing, or how you said things. The problem was that you were trying to have deep conversations with shallow people. Your silence is a reclamation. It's saying, I don't need to prove my pain. I don't need to convince you to treat me better. I won't keep bleeding just to make you see I'm hurting. You begin to understand that not every battle deserves your voice. Some wars are won by retreat, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, because silence is control. In a world obsessed with instant reactions, your refusal to engage is unsettling. They expect chaos. They expect emotional eruptions. But when you respond with stillness, it forces them to confront their own noise. And that terrifies them, because without your voice to distract them, they begin to hear their own echoes, their manipulation, their gaslighting, their dismissiveness. It plays on a loop, and this time, there's no one there to interrupt it. This is the psychology behind silence. It creates a vacuum, one that forces accountability. And the longer you stay quiet, the louder their thoughts become. Now they wonder, did I go too far? Was that the moment I lost them? Are they gone for good? These questions don't haunt you, they haunt them. You're not seeking closure anymore. You're not rehearsing conversations in your head. You've made peace with the silence, and in doing so, you've made peace with yourself. Because here's the truth. They didn't break you. They revealed you. They showed you the parts of yourself you needed to reclaim. You learned that love isn't meant to be begged for. Respect isn't something to be negotiated. And peace is the most expensive thing you'll ever protect. Now, you live in a new reality. One where you no longer chase people who make you question your worth. One where you understand the real power lies not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say. You don't react to provocation. You don't respond to bait. You don't explain your boundaries anymore. They are simply enforced. This shift scares people who were once able to control you through emotion. Because now, they can't guilt you. They can't confuse you. They can't reach you. And that's the most unsettling thing you can do to someone who fed off your vulnerability. Become inaccessible. You've mastered something rare, the art of detachment. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you no longer perform your feelings for people who misuse them. You show up for yourself now, not loudly, but intentionally. You go where you're understood, not tolerated. Where your presence is honored, not used. Where your silence is respected, not filled with assumptions. And as your silence deepens, something else happens. You attract peace, not just externally, but internally. You don't need to win anymore. You don't need the last word. You don't need anyone to finally get it. You've realized that healing isn't loud, it's private. That revenge isn't rage, it's evolution. And that freedom isn't found in being heard. It's found in no longer needing to speak. the most poetic part of all, they never saw it coming. They thought they could break you, but they built you. They thought they could silence you, but they gave you a louder message. They thought they could discard you, but they released you. They played themselves because now, every second of your silence reminds them of what they lost and what they'll never regain. They replay the moments they dismissed you, the jokes they made at your expense, the apologies they never gave, and they wonder, what if I had listened? What if I hadn't pushed them away? What if this silence is permanent? It is, but not out of bitterness, out of self-respect. You've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer needs closure, validation, or vengeance. Your presence is no longer available for games. Your peace is no longer up for negotiation. And your silence, it's the anthem of your rebirth. Because you didn't just go quiet, you grew. You didn't just walk away, you ascended. And the best part, you didn't have to say a single word. So here you are, no longer explaining, no longer chasing, no longer begging for understanding. You've learned to make peace with being misunderstood. And that's the final step in real power. Not needing to correct the version of you that exists in someone else's mind. Let them talk, let them assume, let them spin stories to soothe their own guilt. You're not there anymore. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. And that's what they never calculated for. They thought you'd always return. They thought your kindness was weakness. They thought your silence meant you had nothing left to say. But what they never realized was that your silence wasn't the absence of pain. It was the beginning of healing. You see, when people lose access to the version of you that tolerated their chaos, they don't miss you. They miss the power they once held. The emotional access, the control, the ability to manipulate your empathy and bend your boundaries. But now, your silence builds walls they can't climb. It draws lines they can't cross. It creates a distance they'll never breach again. You've shifted the dynamic. You've ended the cycle. And maybe, just maybe, they'll reflect. Maybe the silence will echo long enough for them to realize how deeply they messed up. But whether they change or not is irrelevant. Because this isn't about them. It never really was. It's about you. You who finally chose yourself. You who stopped over-explaining your worth. You who let go of the need to fix what you didn't break. You don't seek revenge in fire and fury. You don't need public victories or dramatic exits. You simply walk away and keep walking. That's the real revenge. The life you build in the aftermath. The quiet way you rise. The way you smile again. Sleep again. Breathe again. Not because someone came back. Not because they apologized. But because you remembered who you were before they tried to shrink you. And now, you're someone entirely new. Someone who understands that silence isn't just protection, it's precision. It's the scalpel that a day cuts through the noise and leaves only truth behind. It's the shield that deflects energy unworthy of your attention. And in a world addicted to reactions, your ability to stay grounded in silence is nothing short of revolutionary. Let them wonder. Let them sit with their echoes. You have nothing to prove and even less to explain. You're busy now, busy growing, busy healing, busy protecting your peace like a priceless treasure, because it is, because you are. And if anyone wants access to your presence again, they'll have to come correct, with respect, with honesty, with accountability. And even then, maybe. But until then, you owe them nothing. Not your voice, not your clarity, not your energy. They made their choices. Your silence is the receipt. So stand firm, stay quiet, keep building, because your silence is the revenge they never saw coming, and it's echoing in every room they thought you'd never leave.